It's your summer. What the bird is barbecuing.
G'day jabronis, it is the Verd back with you again, and welcome to the first episode of The Verdict, my series where I'm going to be looking at a Pokemon in the Sun and Moon competitive format and looking, I guess, at a few sets that I see stand out for this Pokemon. Not necessarily going to go into ridiculous amounts of depth, but maybe give you guys some ideas on some potential movesets you could use for this Pokemon. So if you do appreciate the series, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and comment down below about some Pokemon you'd like to see. Obviously I'm going to be focusing a lot on the Sun and Moon Pokemon, and I will be going in a bit of an alphabetical order. So Araquanid obviously coming first is going to get the first pick here, but if there are any Pokemon outside of the Sun and Moon Pokedex that you would like to see me analyze, I will do those afterwards, so definitely let me know in the comments and I will tally them all up. I'll leave them in a note, so that's good. Anyway, we're going to go into Araquanid. So it's going to be the first Pokemon we cover in the Sun and Moon format. I think, honestly, tiering wise, tier 3 is pretty reasonable for Araquanid, just right off the bat. Obviously, its stats are interesting, pretty lackluster special attack and speed, which means that it can kind of fare well on a Trick Room team. But the big factors are the fact that it's a very, very good defensive spread of 68, 92, 132. Very solid defensive Pokemon, but I think the big thing about Araquanid that makes it very good is Water Bubble. This Pokemon's water moves are 2 times as powerful as it would be. It cannot be burned ever, and firepower against it is halved. That makes this thing a very, very scary Pokemon. We don't talk about Water Absorb because you'll rarely use Water Absorb, I think, with Araquanid. It's only in a matchup where you're really needing that kind of coverage, and it's like rarely ever needed. Water Bubble is so much more important. The reason why Water Bubble is so good, guys, is because the main attack that Araquanid will go for is Liquidation. Now that's a base 85 attack. Now given the Liquidation that Water Bubble's ability doubles the damage, it means that you have a base 170 stab move. Now yes, coming off of 70 attack, it's not hitting as hard as you might think, because you're not doubling Araquanid's attack stat like you would with huge power. You're just doubling the base power of a move. But that being said, it can still hit very hard, and I'm going to show you 4 sets here that I feel are some really good ways of using Araquanid, and hopefully you enjoy them. So the first one is pretty straightforward in Banded Araquanid, just because of the fact that Liquidation gets that buff and it hits so ridiculously hard against your opponent. You want to maximize your HP here. Like, a lot of these sets are going to be like this kind of style where it's max HP, max attack a little bit. It could be almost, honestly, I would chuck this 8 here into your defense. To be fair, you don't really need that much more in special defense, and this, basically the role of this is just to punch through walls. Against the bulky water types, you do have Leech Life, which does a lot to most of them, and if you're up against like Primarina or Azumarill, that's why Poison Jab is teched on there, but Liquidation is mainly the attack of choice. Even Resists are taking a lot of damage. I have Sleep Talk on there because this is a potential switch into like say an Amoonguss wanting to go for that, and then you could fire off a potential Sleep Talk banded Leech Life, which would be amazing. So there is that premise. There isn't also the other issue, I guess, with Araquanid is when it comes to offensive moves, has a bit of a shallow move pool. Facade and Crunch are there as well, and he gets like Ice Beam and stuff, but obviously off base 50 special attack, not ideal. But for sure, this is probably one of the more standard Araquanid sets I would see people use. Bandit is just very, very strong in the format. The only issue with Bandit, I suppose, is that a lot of Pokemon can hit it quite hard. The other big factor is obviously it coming in on rocks, and taking 25% every time is not ideal for Araquanid. But the next set, and I think probably the best Araquanid set of the bunch, in my opinion, this is the best Araquanid set going around right now, is Assault Vest. Reason being is because of the base 132 special defense, you go to 450 with Assault Vest, and that's insane. You are eating up hits from a lot of mods, and that means you can run Mirror Coat, and Mirror Coat is so good in this format. With Tapu Koko running around just trying to Volt Switch against Araquanid to go for Thunderbolts and whatnot, you can just easily Mirror Coat that and it's gone. Raiku's gone. You can beat sub-variants by just spamming Liquidation anyway, or Leech Life to get your health back. So this is just probably the best Araquanid set around. I think, being able to also reply to bulky waters that try and hit you hard, like say if Primarina's trying to go for Moonblast for damage, you can punish that. But then again, I think Poison Jab will still do more damage. I'm not really too sure, but I think this is probably my favorite Araquanid set. I was kind of taught this set by Jonah, or Isolate is his name, that's right, Isolate. And I learned it the hard way. I had Tapu Koko and I had like a Specs Tapu Koko. I went for Volt Switch, did like 60% to Araquanid because of the Assault Vest. And then I was like, yeah, something's going to die here to Mirror Coat. And it was just a very bad experience indeed. So this is a very scary Pokemon, I think, in the format. Assault Vest is such a good item these days, and this is definitely a scary set to deal with. Another set that I think could actually do really nicely on Araquanid is a sub-lefty set. The reason being is because Araquanid actually matches up really well against almost all of the bulky water types in the format. The only downside it has to them is it's a little bit lackluster in speed. So what you could do is just potentially in your draft format league is just a speed creep Araquanid to whatever, you know, bulky water type there is, and set up a sub in their face. And unless they have like good physical coverage moves, I don't think there's a special coverage move they could run that's going to be able to break Araquanid's sub. You can follow up with a Toxic. Liquidation obviously is a great stab move, and then Leech Life. It gives you pretty darn good coverage against everything, and the Toxic is really nice to wear them down. I think it's a really cool strategy for the fact that, you know, a lot of special attacks from the bulky waters or even other mons are not going to be able to break Araquanid. You can set this up pretty safely against the fire type too, because most of the fire types don't really want to stay in and take a liquidation to the face. If the bulky water comes in, you're behind the sub, then you're pretty much set. It would shut down things like a Lomomola so easily, and it's just a really cool set in general, and definitely one I could see myself using. This is, you know, Verd is like, I'm known for a lot of crazy sets like Natural Gift, but Sub-Toxic is also one of my favourite sets to run, and I think Araquanid could run that really nicely. And finally, the last one is actually something I got inspired by watching in VGC. I don't know if I'd go with this exact spread. I couldn't think of the spread, but it was more the move set. I don't know about the last move either. Definitely the first 3 moves that I focus on. So the reason why you see a Normalium Z there is because Z Stockpile with Araquanid actually gives it a full HP recovery. So basically you let Araquanid get kind of weakened, but it's got like 2 stockpiles up. Then on the 3rd stockpile you use Normalium Z so that you have +3 defense, +3 special defense, and you're back up to full health. It's very obnoxious, very good. I think actually, to be fair, what you could replace Facade within this matchup is potentially Toxic. Facade's just nice for Pokemon that try and go for the Toxic on you to try and wear you down, because this would be a very obnoxious set for them to deal with, and then you could go for the Facade. But then again, think about it, Liquidation is doing more than Facade anyway, so it would only really be good against the bulky water types, and more times than not, Toxic is better against them regardless. So this is a really annoying, obnoxious set. Obviously, if your opponent can predict this, or Haze and whatnot, but I don't think there's be a lot of players that would predict this kind of set. I think it's a really nifty one. Z Stockpile is just so broken. Obviously, if you're in a league that doesn't allow Z status moves, you're out of luck, but you could obviously just go with like Z Liquidation is also very, very strong, especially with Water Bubble. That just pretty much gets a kill like every time, so that's kind of wild as well. But that's pretty much it for Araquanid, guys. Didn't want to go into, I guess, too much detail on this thing because I haven't really tested it too much in the format, I suppose, but I think it is a very solid mon in general. Obviously, some of you may have more experience with than I would, and if you want to, you know, let some people know more about it in the comments, feel free. But what I wanted to really give you guys was just a brief overview of some of the sets that you can expect to see on Araquanid. When it comes to team building wise, I think what Araquanid really appreciates is a good form of hazard removal. So one thing I think it pairs really nicely with is like the Latias, because a lot of the stuff, funnily enough, that can Pursuit Trap Latios and Latias, Araquanid can basically just come in and absolutely decimate. So that's really nice. I think it also pairs well on teams that really struggle against, you know, your classic fire types. For instance, you know, things like Zarb Y get absolutely walled by this thing. Plus, with its decent defensive spreads, it can actually take on things like the Zard X. You just gotta be careful of dragon moves, obviously, but it does realize the issue is that a lot of fire types do have access to moves like Stone Edge, so you have to be really careful about how you play Araquanid, especially against things like an Entei, where, you know, ban an Entei from predicts Araquanid to come in, click Stone Edge, Araquanid is pretty much dead. So you definitely have to play carefully around that. But I think it, you know, partners to this thing, like one really good combo that I've been seeing work really well has been Araquanid with things like Ferrothorn or Fortress, things that don't really appreciate fire types being around. And just, you know, this can come in against those fire types and be fine. Another one is teams that are kind of weak to Scald in general, because obviously it can't be burned. It can come in and take the Scald just fine and play around it, so there is that factor. Or if a Pokemon is Will-O-Wisp, again, it's a Pokemon that can just come in, deal with that just fine. It's a very, very good Keldeo check, probably one of the best Keldeo checks, honestly, in the game. I think the way that you beat Araquanid with Keldeo is with an SD spread, honestly. Special attacking just ain't going to cut it. You're not going to be able to break through Araquanid's ridiculous special defense. I think overall it is a very, very solid Pokemon. If I was going to pick probably my favourite Araquanid set, it's probably Assault Vest. I think one of the more fun ones to use is Stockpile, but I think Assault Vest is probably the best of the bunch in my opinion. I think that, you know, it's able to take a lot of hits. Like, yes, you do require a bit of support, and that support can come from a Wish Pass, and potentially one that comes to mind is maybe Sylveon. Could be really nice, or even Mega Gardevoir could be good too. The reason why Mega Gardevoir is also nice is because this Pokemon works really well on the Trick Room. Obviously with the base 42 speed, it can work really nicely on a Trick Room team, so that is also something to keep in mind for sure. But I think overall Araquanid, you know, it is about a tier 3. It's nothing really super broken or ridiculous, but it is a very solid Pokemon in general. I definitely think it could be a surprise package in a lot of draft format play, but I think the issue with Araquanid is the fact that it does have a really poor HP stat. It is requiring, it's relying a lot on Water Bubble to get damage off, which means that it is a little bit susceptible to things like Skill Swap, where Pokemon will take the ability away from Araquanid, which means it only has that base 70 attack, which means that its attacks are not going to be doing as much damage as it really wants them to do, so that is a bit of an issue for sure. The other big thing to watch out for is the fact that if you don't, reliably heal up and preserve Araquanid, it will just get easily whittled by hazards, and it's still not exactly the bulkiest. It has very good special defensive bulk, but on that HP side, like I said, you know, it could take a walloping. So just gotta be careful of those things, guys. But honestly, it is a very solid mod on the format. I would definitely recommend you at least try it out. But if you did enjoy this video, like it, that would be phenomenal. Also, don't forget to subscribe and comment down below if I've missed anything on Araquanid you'd like to highlight to people, and maybe some other Pokemon you'd like to see soon. But after this, we'll be focusing on more Sun and Moon Pokemon. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is The Verd, and I'm out this bitch.